Syrian crisis deepens in Gaza with communication cut off. Getting aid to those who need it now is much more difficult and dangerous.
Basic supplies like medicines, antibiotics, painkiller, anesthetic are running out.
Fear and anguish as families in the GTA can't reach their loved ones inside Gaza as Israel moves into its second phase of the war against Hamas, vowing to bring the hostages home. And
my daughter was a beautiful soul. She had a big heart. It was her big heart that cost her life.
As Sault Ste. Marie mourns the lives lost in what police are calling a case of intimate partner violence, there's increasing calls to protect women and children.
I'm finally gonna get to see a real astronaut. I'm super excited.
It was very special for me to see parents and children coming here to embrace science.
Very exciting day for these young space enthusiasts getting up close to a real-life astronaut counting down to his big mission to the moon.
This is CBC Saturday News.
You're looking at downtown Toronto near Union Station. This footage just coming into our newsroom. It's estimated thousands of people are filling the streets this hour, all part of a pro-Palestinian rally that started earlier at City Hall. It comes as Israel's ground offensive intensifies. Thanks for joining us. Israel's Prime Minister addressing the public today, vowing to defeat Hamas. After meeting with the families of hostages being held, the country's military stepping up that ground offensive in Gaza. Phone and internet service is now cut off. Patrick Swadden begins our coverage tonight, starting with that rally in downtown Toronto.
At a demonstration attended by thousands in Toronto's Nathan Phillips Square, the focus was on children killed in Gaza.
Unknown. That is the most common thing written on coffins. Not names, not birthdays, unknown.
But the message was the same as other protests held in recent weeks, that the bloodshed must stop. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says more than 7,700 people have died in the last 3 weeks, while 1,400 people were killed during Hamas's attack in Israel.
We are demanding a ceasefire now. We are demanding to stop killing our people in Palestine urgently.
Mona Ayesh says she's lost family members living in Gaza.
The civilians that are being killed there, they have nothing to do with this. The war should stop first.
Others say they don't know if their loved ones are safe after Gaza's telecom provider said internet service had been cut off, leaving many with no communication to their families.
Now this is the second day. We don't know who's living, who's dead.
Many at today's demonstration hoping aid will arrive in time.
We have to look at it from a humane perspective, not from political perspective.
But with much of Gaza now in the dark, some say providing humanitarian assistance is difficult.
Basic supplies like medicines, antibiotics, painkiller, anesthetic are running out.
Dr. Abdel Manan says aid organizations aren't able to communicate with workers on the ground, leaving hospitals running out of fuel and unable to operate critical medical equipment like ventilators.
You know, they are very much struggling and they are not getting enough aid in.
Yesterday, the UN passed a resolution calling for a humanitarian truce. Canada abstained from the vote after an amendment condemning Hamas failed to get the necessary votes. Justin Trudeau has called for humanitarian pauses to allow aid into Gaza, but for some at today's rally, that's not enough.
Call for immediate ceasefire, immediate ceasefire, immediate ceasefire.
While other organizations worry about the release of the 200 hostages if bombing continues in the region. Corey Balsam is with Independent Jewish Voices. The organization has been criticized for not representing the views of the larger Jewish community, but are still calling for Israel to stop bombing Gaza.
You know, this is one of the reasons we're calling for the ceasefire. And of course, the release of hostages would be part of that.
Balsam wants to see an end to the killing and for Canada to work towards a solution.
We need to see Canada engage at different levels to actually push forward a resolution that's going to respect everyone's rights in that region.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
There were more protests right around the world today calling for a ceasefire. One of the biggest was in London. The march went through central London, ending at the Downing Street offices of the Prime Minister's. protesters want him to call for a ceasefire as well. So far, Britain has only urged a pause for humanitarian purposes, and like Canada, it abstained in yesterday's UN General Assembly vote. Well, turning now to what's happening on the ground in Gaza, we go to CBC's senior international correspondent, Margaret Evans.
Palestinians will be bracing themselves for another long and uncertain night. Yesterday's strikes described as the most intense in 3 weeks of war, along with an expanding Israeli ground operation. Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it the second phase of the war. We have set 2 goals for the war, he's saying: to annihilate Hamas by destroying its military and to do everything possible to bring our hostages back home. The military says it is targeting underground bunkers and tunnels used by Hamas, as well as the militant group's leadership. The Palestinians say it is mainly women and children who are dying. Large parts of Gaza now reduced to rubble, the displaced struggling to find food and clean water. We want the war to stop, says Noah Al-Kur. We lost our loved ones, our relatives, and our children. All my siblings and their children are gone. But there is more war on the way. This, a warning delivered by Israeli military spokesman Daniel Hagari.
We urge all residents of northern Gaza and Gaza City to relocate south immediately. This is a temporary measure. Moving back to northern Gaza will be possible once the intense hostilities end.
When that will be is anybody's guess. Aid agencies and the UN's Secretary General continue to call for an urgent ceasefire. In Israel, there is also pressure on Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire from families worried their loved ones taken hostage by Hamas will be killed as Israel intensifies attacks. They held a protest in Tel Aviv, demanding time for negotiations to continue.
We are here today because yesterday's attack on the IDF that invaded Gaza, and no one is talking to us. We want answers. We want to ask questions to the government. We are afraid for our hostages, our family. We want to bring them home alive.
Netanyahu agreed to a meeting with the families this evening, insisting he's doing what he can to bring the hostages home. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Turning to Sault Ste. Marie next, where there is grief and anger. A murder-suicide earlier this week saw 3 children killed, police calling it a case of intimate partner violence. Katie Nicholson is in the community where people are demanding immediate and meaningful action to protect women and children.
The yellow police tape is down. It's now replaced by a growing memorial to Angie Sweeney. Sweeney was shot and killed in her home Monday night by Bobby Hallard before he got in a car and drove to a second residence and shot and killed 3 children and seriously wounded another woman before taking his own life. Last night was the first time that this community was able to come together and grieve at a vigil. It was absolutely terrible conditions, and still people stood in the wind and the rain and the cold for 2 hours to listen to community members. And they also heard from Brian Sweeney, who's Angie Sweeney's father, and he had so much to say about what a kind and generous person she was, what a good daughter and mother she was. And he also had some fighting words.
I've got to do something so that no other family in this country will suffer the way that my family and my extended family, my girls that I call all my daughter's girlfriends are all my girls, because they're special people, and my daughter helped make them special people. And they are going to be part with me to get a movement going here to stop all this terrible nonsense and violence.
Brian Sweeney isn't the only person pledging action. There's been a lot of talk here in the community from leaders and from advocates about how more needs to be done to address intimate partner violence. The number of calls received by the Women in Crisis Center here has gone up 60% from pre-pandemic levels. Many people here are pointing to the Renfrew County inquest. That was an inquest that concluded last year and made 86 recommendations to the government to try and stop intimate partner violence. And the case that was built on has striking parallels with what happened here on Monday. Among the very many recommendations that were made was simply, number one, to declare intimate partner violence an epidemic in this province, something that Ontario has yet to do. But on Monday night, the Sault Ste. Marie City Council will vote on a motion to do just that. Councillor Angela Caputo is the councillor putting that motion forward.
It's interesting because the Ontario government under Doug Ford has refused to call it an epidemic, citing that epidemic refers to disease. Yet the World Health Organization is saying violence against women, particularly intimate partner violence and sexual abuse, is a major health issue.
Caputo says she expects that motion will pass unanimously at Monday's council meeting. She says that she hopes this is the first step to really putting this issue into focus in the community and that it leads to potentially unlocking more money and resources later. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Sault Ste. Marie.
If you or someone you know is experiencing violence, you can find resources, including a crisis lines and a list of shelters at these websites. And always, if immediate help is needed, call 911. A criminal investigation is ongoing at several hospitals in southwestern Ontario as they continue to deal with a cyber attack. It's now been 6 days since hospitals in Windsor-Essex, Chatham-Kent and Sarnia have been offline, forcing some appointments to be cancelled. The IT service provider called Transform says they're working around the clock to get things online. They say they're getting support from third-party cybersecurity experts and hope to have an update next week. OPP say they are investigating, but so far have not made any further comment. Meantime, the Ottawa Hospital is still asking people to avoid its general campus after a fire broke out Friday afternoon. Crews got a call about a transformer fire in a hydro vault on the 3rd floor. Nobody was injured, but about 100 patients had to be relocated throughout the building. The hospital remains in code orange at this hour, which means staff can divert patients to other ERs across the city. An exciting day for some youngsters who got a chance to meet their personal hero, Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, touching down at the Ontario Science Centre ahead of his big mission to the moon. As Clara Pasica shows us, it's more than a year away, but he's already inspiring the next generation of space enthusiasts.
Space exploration.
The Ontario Science Centre was packed to the brim with aspiring astronauts today.
Mars, anyone?
Eager to be in the same room as Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen.
I'm finally gonna get to see a real astronaut. I'm super excited.
I want to go to the ISS station and float in space. And I wanted to be the first woman on Mars because Mars is full of mysteries about where's water and the rovers on it, but then the Mars just keeps on coming into it, so a human has to go onto it to see what's there.
Hansen will become the first Canadian ever to venture to the moon. He will fly on the Artemis II mission, the first crewed flight test of the Orion spacecraft. He says his trip thousands of kilometers from Canada could make a big impact here at home.
We're also looking at rovers on the lunar surface, deep space healthcare to solve remote healthcare problems and challenges on the planet, as well as food production in places like the Arctic, but eventually on the moon and Mars.
Mission Specialist, Christina Cook.
He says the team getting ready for the mission have been exploring an area of Labrador which has rock formations like the moon. These aspiring astronauts have also been researching and were eager to share what they know.
But you don't see as much craters on Earth here as you see on the moon because the Earth has rain, dust, a lot of stuff that can wash it away or erode it.
We're going to need really gritty explorers.
Everyone had loads of questions for the real-life astronaut, including how to be just like him. He encouraged everyone to have goals, to share them out loud, and be a good person.
And so it's very special for me to see parents and children coming here to embrace science and learning and to just, allow that space for to ask the questions why and how. These are very important aspects to develop. So how do I feel? I feel filled with hope.
Jeremy Hansen and his fellow astronauts will take off in that rocket to the moon in just over a year. But if today is any indication, he'll be inspiring future astronauts and space enthusiasts every step of the way. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, from one science icon to another. Check her out tonight.
Out of this world throw from an out of this world story. Who better to talk about a little science than the Frizz herself? Shannon, you know we love Halloween on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's a little early to get dressed up, but yes, we love Halloween, and we love teaching you about the weather and science and space and climate, as you just saw there. And folks, this is the weekend when you're going to be going out to your Halloween parties and getting dressed up in costumes just like the Frizz herself, and it's not the weekend where you want to take chances, make mistakes, and get messy, which is why the Frizz herself is here from the Magic School Bus to tell you that you need an umbrella into the overnight period and into tomorrow morning and afternoon. Some light rain showers coming in. And if you'd like this, just wait till the Halloween costume that Shannon and I have planned for tomorrow. Yeah, it's the weekend before Halloween, and we have this little low pressure system skirting to our south. It'll be with us until tomorrow afternoon. And as the Frizz would say, you have to make connections. And what you're going to see is the air mass that we have in place after the showers tonight and tomorrow are much cooler than, well, the summer-like stretch that we had this past week. Yes, we took a field trip back to summer this past week, and it was glorious, wasn't it? Our overnight lows, Shannon, were warmer than what our daytime high should be. In fact, we reached the warmest lows this late in the season ever. Buckle your seatbelts, folks, for the long-range forecast, because I will have the full details on your Halloween weather. Hit it, Liz.
80s and 90s kids everywhere are squealing right now. Thanks so much,
It's
Sophia.
really just our generation. It's for us, Shannon.
We love it. In Mississauga, Peel police are investigating after a deadly crash last night. Shortly after 10 p.m., police say a motorcycle and SUV somehow collided. There's little word tonight on what led to the crash, but police confirm the SUV driver has died. The motorcyclist remains in hospital with life-threatening injuries. 2 women were also taken to hospital. Debris, as you can see, was scattered across the intersection, with the SUV appearing to have ended up in someone's front yard. Police are investigating after a person was hit by a City of Toronto vehicle at Moorgate Park in Scarborough. It happened around 8 this morning. Police say there were reports the person was sleeping under a bag when they were struck. Their injuries are not life-threatening. In a statement, the city says it is fully cooperating with the investigation. Officials in Stone Mills and Napanee say their communities are on edge after 3 suspicious fires broke out, destroying a community center and 2 home garages. The first fire broke out early Monday morning, turning a community center into smoldering ruin. The OPP say a second fire then sparked the same morning, burning down a nearby home garage. Then, 2 days later, a third blaze broke out at another garage. Now, no one has been hurt, but authorities say the cost of rebuilding the community center alone will be billions of dollars. Provincial police continue to investigate along with the fire marshal. Officers are also stepping up patrols in the area. Stay with us. We're back in 3 minutes. Here's a look at Dundas Square earlier, where members of the Mexican community gathered for the Katrina Festival. It's one of many celebrations leading up to Day of the Dead next week. A Katrina is an image that represents death and has become a symbol at the celebrations. Here's more from one of the Toronto organizers.
We Mexicans are very proud of our culture. Our culture has thousands of years. People think that Katrina is Halloween, and it has nothing to do. What happened is in Mexico we celebrate the Day of the Dead. And we believe that our loved ones, or the people who died, they come back to the earth, let's say in the 1st of November, which is the Day of All the Saints. The Katrina is another movement that starts in the beginning of 1900s in Mexico. Now, with the time, the Katrina is very, very associated with the Day of the Dead, and that's why we are doing these things together. But as I mentioned before, it is totally different than Halloween. It's more important the creativity and the love that you put in your makeup. And that's what makes the costume a little bit more special and magical, because anybody can wear it, and anybody can do it their own creativity or colors or designs.
Miss Frizzle, you'll appreciate this. I was there as Lulu was doing Angie's makeup. It's like an hour or more, but it's just beautiful and elaborate body paint. So cool.
Unbelievable. And if you like that, you're going to love what we have in store tomorrow as well. An amazing time to get dressed up and express yourself, whether you are the Frizz or you're at home watching me with a dinosaur on my shoulder, folks. Artistic license, it's all my kids had at home. The Frizzle is back with your Halloween spooky forecast. Shannon and all the kids to the bus right now. Hit it, Liz. And as the Frizz would say, when one road ends, another adventure begins. And we had a lovely adventure back in summer this past work week. Yeah, we were at the beach yesterday, out in shorts and t-shirts, and now I wish I had some Magic School Bus magic to create these single-digit highs into the double-digit warmth that we got used to. It really was truly record-breaking. We were 17, 18 degrees, the warmest overnight lows we've ever had in the region this late in the season. Now umbrellas will be needed on top of any wigs or costumes that you have going forward. Rain right until Monday, on and off showers, but we are mostly dry and cloudy right up until Halloween. Now here's where your Magic School Bus science behind the weather comes in. Let's talk a little bit about lake effect snow, because for some of you it's going to be a very spooky Halloween forecast. All the blue on the screen, yes, that's snow. Colder air mass over warmer lake waters. Those of you in Sault Ste. Marie, Parry Sound, and around the Bruce Peninsula on the Georgian and the Huron shores, Shannon, could have a white Halloween. Ooh. Yes, believe it or not. And Shannon, I gotta say, you and all the viewers, you and the team at CBC Toronto take us and all the viewers on field trips all around the region.
Well, thank you,
Thank you for that.
You knocked it out of the park. Third year in a row, you've dazzled us with your costumes.
Oh, a lot of fun. We'll have more fun tomorrow.
Okay, can't wait. We'll see you tomorrow night. That is our show for you. Thanks for watching. Before we go, we got to take you to the Bentway in Toronto for what has become a fall favorite. Hundreds of dogs and their humans dressed up to celebrate Halloween.
So we really wanted to bring them all together this spooky season. Halloween is a costumed puppy parade that wanders through the length of our site. It's Toronto's largest Halloween event for dogs, and we had about 600 people out today. It's been a lot of fun.
Here they are. That's it for us. We'll see you tomorrow.